Joy Smallwood, everyone. Hey, if there's a photo that's like really cool of me or Christina or really anything, she did it. Just blame her. And if it's in black and white, that's my best image.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Grazie.
You got that though, right?
Probably.
You want this close?
Yeah, because I'm gonna yell. So I gotta give special thanks to Tiger for running with me today. I'm going to let everyone know off the jump, you're going to want to take notes. But this is being recorded and will be shared. And for all my haters, you're not going to like this because this is going to be absolutely dope. Happy New Year. As a medical disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, but I've trained a lot of them. And for 45 years, I've studied integrative health in humans and animals. In the last 20 years, I've had a focus in environmental toxicology with a specialty in systemic detoxification of using nature's most powerful crystal. The last 10 years, I've spent with the most dynamic woman on the planet in healthcare with a focus in environmental toxicology, bioscience engineering, and well, a whole lot more. And I mean the most influential woman on the planet right now. We're blessed to be in this environment. But 10 years ago, when Christina and I met, she was one of the innovators and created the first research registries in the United States for tracking outcomes and benefits of genetic testing. Why is that important? Well, if you don't know who you are, well, you really don't know what you can do for yourself. So am I a doctor? No. Everything that we're going to go over today is my opinion. And you might not like my tone, but I'm probably right. So if you have a medical problem, you're toxic and you should work with a professional. Now, the good part is, well, everybody here is very well informed and well educated, and you're going to have more education today. So Tiger, let's go. So this is the first Root U of 2025, and I haven't been able to do these forever because usually Christina gets to do these. This is going to be the most fun. We're going to hit on two things today. One, we're going to hit on the most important thing for you to talk about that is going to create an opportunity for you to know yourself and for those around you to know themselves, to become better at themselves. But what I'm also going to do is show you there will be somebody that effectively listens and learns to what we're going to talk about that will probably make $1 million from this year. How many? I want you to think about this. If I gave you the keys to a vehicle that would allow you to earn $1 million by driving it, would you do it? Would you take the time to learn how to get in the cockpit of that vehicle, how to learn to start it, drive it, become very, very efficient at driving it, to be able to compete at a level that allows you to earn what that vehicle is capable of learning that might be beyond what you believe yourself is capable of earning? Welcome to the Rootiverse in 2025. So, as I mentioned, Christina's one of the leaders in genetic testing, and she doesn't talk about it a lot, but initially started with pharmacogenetics, which was the understanding of how prescription medications can be metabolized. Well, the study of genetics in the Human Genome Project has gone well beyond that, and we are really, 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 truly excited to be able to show you guys the tools and the mechanisms that are going to allow you to have probably the foundational tools for biohacking, for performance, for your kids' health, for your own health, for your own longevity. Because if you don't know yourself and you don't know who you really are, and I mean who you are like as what you were made as, you can never make the right decisions as far as what you personally should be doing for your own health, wellness, performance, and longevity. We're going to give you the tools today, and I'm going to show you how to monetize it. So, the power of a fresh start. Well, here's the thing. You can read some of this, and I'm going to talk, and I might hit on a couple things that you don't see on the screen. So make notes for what you see on the screen, but also listen to what I'm saying. Here's the beautiful part of the human condition. We are all made of the same hardware and the same operating system. We are a biological computer. We are a quantum computing network. As my favorite philosopher wrote many years ago in her first book, that we are each an imperfect piece to a perfect puzzle. We used to think that we were 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon. We now know that we are 6 degrees from 6.5 billion people. We are all connected. We are all one network. We are not segmented. It is important for each of us to be our best selves as part of what this system, ecosystem is on this planet that we call humanity, right? But having the same hardware and having the same operating system does not mean we are all the same. We are each unique because our applications, our software, and the configuration of those systems is unique to each of us as an individual, as it is with your cell phone. Every single person on the planet that has a cell phone probably has the same hardware and the same operating system. But if we looked at the apps that you have, what you're running, and how they're configured, you've got, well, I don't know how many phones there are, 80 billion, right? Different configurations. So each one of us genetically is unique because we're made to be that way. So in order to understand who you are and how you should be working with yourself, you have to take the time to understand what you are and who you are. That gets down to the foundation that makes you, that happens to be your genetics. And then when you understand your genetics, you can start to change or manipulate or optimize your genetic expression. We're going to do all of that today. Let's go, Tiger. So as part of the DRC GX platform, you have 6, and now +1 that we'll tap into, 6 different panels that all pertain to different aspects of your health, your wellness, and your performance. I hate the term wellness. God bless it. Your health, your function, and your performance. First is the nutrient profile. What this is going to look at are some things that are very cool. And what we're going to do is I'm going to be cross-referencing a lot of these conversation points in different genetic SNPs and different genetic markers that are identified, because I'm going to try to show you how you can take one thing and overlay it with some other components so you can begin to understand you. And the coolest part, what we're going to look at is actually me. So this is not a sample genetic report. This is my genetic report. And here's the first thing that people are going to ask questions on this, because of the lack of security across entire platforms when it comes to your information and your data. We do not collect your information. We do not save your information. So who you are, your name, your contact information, all of your personal information is not something that is gathered in this genetic aspect. The data, the report that makes it up, and your information is for your use. We don't keep it. We're not selling it. We're not using you. We're not using your genetic data, to compare with other people and sell that and package it and do all the crazy stuff that other, companies that have two, like a number and then and me would do, and all these other things that are going on. This is designed to be of great benefit for each individual. We're not doing this as means of gathering all your information and packaging it and selling you off to other parties that want your data. That is not done here. Know that. Because, well, we're in the process of creating greatness, and prostituting you for your information is not something that we're interested in. We want you to be better. So, number 1, nutrients. What's important in this report is understanding genetically how you're made to do some stuff, but it's also important to understand the factors that actually influence your genetics when you were conceived. because there are some environmental factors that actually have a key influence on your genetic development. Think about that. There are substances that your mother put in you, that your mother was passing into you, that when sperm and egg were coming together and create this little zygote and everything was being formed, there were some substances that might have influenced specific genes that influence you. That substance happens to be mercury. So keep that in mind as we look at a few things that we're going to touch on. So the toxicity that was in your mother, that was passed down maternally through multiple generations, has an impact on this. And that is why you have to start with a clean slate. But in order to start with a clean slate, you have to know what board you're starting with anyway. So let's get into this and have some fun. So first, we're going to look at vitamins, right? You know that vitamins are important. And here's the cool part with DRC GX. Not only are you going to have the report that shows you what you are and how these things work, but you're also going to have recommendations from the Rootverse that are going to let you know what you can take to get or optimize these aspects. So if I look at vitamin A, vitamin B6, and B9, you're going to see one gene that's here over on the right, MTHFR, that is talked about a lot. We're not talking about one or two genes. We're talking about over 129 genes with multiple SNPs that equates to thousands of different correlations of genetic SNPs that correlate to these factors and how they tie together. This is probably the most complex genetic analysis on the market currently that is going to give you insane in-depth analysis of who you are and the explanations of what you can do with them. So genetically, my MTHFR, my methylation of B9, is below average. My B6 tendencies for metabolism are normal. That gene is NBPF3. You don't need to know these because you have these as a reference. And then BCMO1 is for vitamin A, and my metabolism for vitamin A is a little bit below average. Well, and we know that when people talk about methylation and MTHFR, you hear them talk about B vitamins. That's ignorant. Yeah, I said it. I'm going to bend it like Brecca for a second. So methylation pertains primarily to detoxification of heavy metals and environmental toxins. That's what's most important for methylation. Now, as I mentioned initially, your early exposure to mercury in the fetus will actually disrupt the methylation process, because if your body was properly methylating, you would be more effective in removing mercury, and mercury has the ability to shut off your genetic pathways in order to remove it because it's that nefarious. So the key in this is, if you look at your methylation pathways, if you weren't able to methylate at all, you'd be dead. You would have never made it in the first place. But for me, genetically, my tendency is a little bit below average for B9 and folate metabolism because of MTHFR. Now, genetically, I know where my starting point is, but from an epigenetic standpoint, have I been able to manipulate this because of my use of Clean Slate and my use of Relive Greens and my use of Restore and my use of a couple other products that make me Rootarian? Yes, because I know me now. So when we look at these components, you can understand your metabolism, but you also have the recommendation of where you're going to get these from. Relive Greens, Restore, all provide these nutrients. Now, the key part in this is, if I know that I'm a lower metabolizer of some of these things, I might find for myself that I might take a little bit more of them because my body's going to respond better to more, maybe because I don't metabolize them as well as others. These are things that you get to tweak as you get to know yourself. Go ahead, Tiger. So, we got more. Oh, this is like the worst thing for somebody that's high functioning when she keeps bouncing back and forth between screens. I'm like playing like ping pong with results and data. This is amazing. So,
sorry, I pushed my mouse and it scrolled two in front.
squirrel. So vitamin D tendency, vitamin E tendency, omegas. Have you heard that omega-3s, 6s, and 9s are important? Yeah, they are. But would you take fish oils for these when the majority of the water supply on the entire planet is polluted with microplastics, heavy metals, and environmental pollutants, and some of them being radioactive isotopes? No. And if you had a scientist that was working on the Human Genome Project that knew that omega-6s were a primary culprit in the explosion of colon cancer across the world, you might be able to make better decisions on what you're consuming. Now, that scientist would happen to be Dr. Christina Rom. So for me, I'm above average in my metabolism of omega 3, 6s, and 9s. And I know that if I take Relive Greens and Restore, there are sources of omega 3s, 6s, and 9s already built within those that is going to provide my body what I need. I don't need fish oils that I probably don't know the source and I don't know the environment, because there are other parts of plants, herbs, and such that also provide those sources that are higher quality, that have already been designed by a bioscience engineer, that are completely clean. Now I can look at my vitamin E tendencies and say, okay, here's my metabolism of vitamin E. Here's the sources that I can get my vitamin E from and my vitamin D. And where's one of the key sources for vitamin D? That happens to be the sun. Now, would it not be amazing that if you could have a measurement and a marker genetically of how your body uses the sun? Oh, we call that foreshadowing. Let's go. Mineral metabolism. So you can look at calcium, you can look at copper, you can look at iron, you can look at magnesium. All of these individually are really important. But the thing is because we understand the operating system and we understand how amazing this quantum computing system is that God gave us, we're not going to talk about things independently. We're taking them all into their scope to understand how they all work together. And you can see the specific genes that correspond to calcium tendency in your use of calcium, right? So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different genes, as well as their SNPs, that are all used to look at your calcium tendencies and your copper tendencies. And I'm below average in my use of copper, which means I might tweak my supplementation a little bit to make sure that I'm getting what I need in my lifestyle and my diet. And I want to hit on something here real quick when I talk supplementation, right? Because if I do one thing this year well, I'm going to teach how I live. And I'm going to serve as an example for the rest of our community, that you guys can see as an example how you could do the same and how you can teach others to do this. I am Rotarian. I basically live on Clean Slate, Zero In, Restore, Relive Greens, Give Me Back My Youth, Natural Barrier Support, Immune Defense Shield, 6 to 10 capsules a day, Sculpt and Crush. My supplementation is what I eat, because there's a difference between calories and nutrients. You want less calories, more nutrients. You don't want all the chemicals, all the toxins, all the trash that exists within the environment. That's all the food you eat. If you're giving your body everything it needs from a quantum signature standpoint, energetics, polarization, nutrients, all combined and stacked ideally to allow this operating system to start cleaning itself out, rebuild, restructure, amplify what God's given us, allow us connect back to our source and become what we're made to be, you probably want to start with that, and then you can eat for fun. Welcome to the revolution. It's 2025. All that old stuff, everybody that talks about last year and before, that's all dead now. Now we get to become what we've been made to become. This is the ascension process. This is the foundation for your growth. Because if you don't know your foundation, if you don't know what you're built on, if you're building a house, right? If you're building a city and you don't know the foundation, the firmament, the roots of where you come from and what you're built upon, you'll never have an existing long-lasting infrastructure. It won't happen. This is what we're going to understand. Go for the next one. Phosphorus, selenium, zinc, all the same things. I'm above average in my zinc metabolism, which is one of the reasons that I love eating oysters, because oysters are really high in zinc. My body likes zinc. It's great. Selenium, phosphorus, I'm above average in my phosphorus. Where am I going to get those? Well, I'm going to get them in Immune Defense Shield, and I'm going to get them from some of the things I like to eat in my diet that can amplify the effects of those nutrients in my body, because I know me. Go ahead. Now, who wants to get fit and lose weight, slim down and lean out and add muscle? everyone, here's your plan for yourself. Now, each of you, say you're an ambassador for a brand that actually rewards sharing in an aspect of this. What if you now could start producing content and maybe took the time to learn how to do Google ads and how to do marketing on different social platforms, and maybe found people that had influence that wanted to talk about these subjects and actually monetize them? You had a mechanism to be rewarded on this, and you could become the expert to show people genetically how they can tweak themselves this year. This is going to get dope. Here we go. Go, Tiger. So weight loss, my metabolism is above average, and I know these specific genes like LEPR, CRON-A, CRY2, all give me my markers for metabolism. My metabolism naturally is above average, which I've known since I was a kid because, well, I was an athlete, I stayed really lean, I was highly active, and metabolic function allows you to do different things from sports as well as processed nutrients. So which products are great for metabolism? Well, there's ReLive Greens, there's Sculpt, there's also Crush. You're going to see some recommendations for those. My weight loss tendency is normal. My weight regain, so there's not only markers for weight loss and metabolism, but it's going to show you how you can regain weight. So maybe if you make poor decisions after a diet and you start making the wrong decisions, are you going to add that weight back really quickly? You'll know genetically, and you'll be able to make decisions on that. What are the things that are important that you should take based on these? The coolest part with this is once you have this test done, you purchase this test in your back office, you create, or if you create a specific link to your account where someone can buy this, once they become a customer and they have this report, all of these recommendations for products are actionable. They can click on them to order them in their back office, which already tracks back to you. So you could do a massive amount of marketing just talking about this genetic panel. And I will tell you, there's hundreds of thousands of people that are looking for something like this, that have paid more money for less, that are really disappointed with what they got. They want this kind of information. They will pay for this willingly, easily. And then once you're able to capture them as a customer, you're going to be able to communicate with them. But the platform itself is going to make the recommendations for you. That's kind of dope. Go ahead, Tiger. One of my favorite genes is FTO, your satiety gene. Now, if you see mine, it's well below average, basically off. Now, if you know me, and Patrick's going to laugh at this, and my sister's actually here. She's at lunch right now, but she'll tell you this. Because my satiety gene is basically off, I don't ever feel full. So I have the genetic ability to eat more than you can ever imagine. Now, if I eat improperly, because my carb utilization is really low, my gluten sensitivity is low, so I'm not gluten intolerant, I'm glyphosate sensitive, because most people are not gluten intolerant. Patrick is, but we will also see that in his genetics. But me, I'm not gluten sensitive, but if I'm consuming wheat products and other things that are loaded with glyphosate, I'm going to have a bad experience. But my protein utilization is enhanced. So my metabolism is higher than most. My protein utilization is higher than most. My carb utilization is lower. My gluten sensitivity, my lactose intolerance is not likely, but I don't drink a lot of milk because I'm an O and I don't like all the hormones and stuff. And the glyphosate that's in milk, in grass-fed beef, whole milk, some of the most toxic stuff on the planet right now if you're getting cows from the United States. Yeah, those things that you think are healthy are not, because they're loaded with more glyphosate than you can imagine. And my caffeine metabolism is normal. So now that I understood myself, I can make decisions consciously of knowing, look, I don't need breads. I don't need carbs because I'm low in metabolizing them. I need vegetables and I need protein. I need ReLive Greens, Sculpt and Crush and Restore more than I need a bagel, because I know me. Now, I'll show you how this also applies to being an athlete and why, if you have kids, this test on your kids, which you only need to do once, right? This is one and done. This is like building your own Bible. This is your book of you. Once you have your book of you, it'll be the greatest subject you ever study because you're going to get to understand yourself and what God made you to become. This is your playbook. Go for it, Tiger. What's your sweets preference, your bitterness sensitivity, your fat loss response to cardio, my fitness response to cardio, my body composition response to strength training? Would all these things help you if you were trying to be active? So you know what you should be doing and how you should be doing it and how you might apply these things? Because maybe you're seeing all these things on social media or someone's telling you you should do this, but maybe you get a trainer and your trainer's like, we're going to do this and this and this. But what if those things are completely opposite of your own genetics and how you were made? Are you going to fight them? Are those things going to be detrimental to your health and your performance? Possibly. If you had kids, if you have kids, maybe if you're like Patrick, if you have a new baby and you want the greatest opportunity, you want the greatest health, and maybe you've had personal health challenges in your life that you would never want a child to go through and grow up with, if you knew genetically how you can train them, what you should feed them, what they can do in their life to be the healthiest they can from the jump, and you're going to be able to have them grow up, and you're going to teach them how they can understand themselves and the decisions that they can make in their lives to be optimized, would that be advantageous? If you were a parent, you wanted your kid to be active, and maybe you knew you genetically had an athletic background, and your significant other also had an athletic background, so you knew genetically that there was going to be a great opportunity for your child to be, participating in different aspects of athletics. Wouldn't you want to know how to properly direct them based on how they would be built? You can now. Is that advantageous? Could you talk to organizations full of athletes that would want to say, you know what? Maybe if I was a university that was bringing in athletes, I would be willing to pay $499 to have this done on every athlete. Maybe if there was an NIL platform that was sponsoring athletes, or if an athlete wanted to talk about, hey, this is the most important thing you could do for an athlete because you get to know yourself and you could show them how to monetize that. Whoa, kind of dope. What's my HDL response to cardio? What's my insulin sensitivity response to cardio? What's my glucose response to cardio? Do you know all these things right now about yourself? Do you know how you should train, how you should work out? Maybe if you do things that improve, your desire to eat foods, and I know I have a sweets preference, and my satiety gene doesn't work, I probably don't want to eat sweets because I'm not going to eat one. I'm going to eat a bunch of them because I'm above average in my sweets preference, and I'm low in metabolizing, and I'm not getting full. That's probably not a good thing. How would I curb that? Well, I would take Sculpt, I would take Crush, and I would consciously know that I'm not going to make those decisions when I'm doing things because I understand myself and I know the consequences. I control me. I dictate my terms because I know myself. Isn't that one of the first things philosophically from some of the greatest philosophers of all times? First, know thyself. Here we go. Next one, Tiger. Oh, now we get into performance. Now we've looked at nutrients. We've looked at how you respond to losing weight. Now let's look at performance. Go for it. And you're going to see how these tie in. I'm not intrinsically motivated to exercise. I was a sprinter in college. I used to be able to run 100 meters in 10.5 seconds. I got injured. I tore my hamstring 25 years ago. And I don't like to work out now. I just don't. I got to find out that intrinsically, I'm genetically not motivated to do it on my own. Kind of important to know. The primary marker in this, when it comes to intrinsic motivation for exercise, which also applies to intrinsic motivation to do other things, is BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factors. Now, BDNF is going to be one of the biggest conversations in 2025. just like colostrum was in 2024. Now, who was talking about colostrum being the biggest thing in 2024 and 2022? Yes, that would be us. And here's the important part to understand. We're giving you now the platform and the mechanism to provide the measurements to show people how they should be behaving. But everything that they need to do, everything you need to do to improve your health, your performance, your longevity was done 5 years ago, is already published, already proven, already shown, already done in case studies, and is already patented. So you notice how she backdoored everything. She did everything. We proved it. Now we're giving you the mechanisms to show how you need to do it. And you've got the proof already to show why these recommendations are in place for you to do it. So as everyone else in social media and in the media and in the health space and the biohacking space is starting to talk about different subjects, you can be confident in the fact that we've already got it all handled. And when you understand yourself, you'll be able to take your personal information and cross-reference different categories so you can make intelligent decisions about yourself. And you really can start biohacking yourself because you know yourself. How can you optimize yourself if you don't even know who you are? How can you make tweaks to your function and your performance if you don't even know who you are? You're probably doing things that are counterproductive for your own health and performance out of complete ignorance because you're listening to people that are not bioscience engineers, that don't have backgrounds in real science, that are talking about subjects that they heard about, or they're trying to sell you something of a single ingredient, or they heard about a subject and they're like, oh my God, did you hear that MTHFR does this for B vitamins? You should buy methylated B vitamins, without understanding that methylation primarily pertains to systemic detoxification of heavy metals and other environmental toxins, and it's mercury that affects MTHFR and affects methylation. And your methylation of B vitamins has nothing to do with B vitamins. It has everything to do with how toxic you are. Now, if you had a background in environmental toxicology and you were a bioscience engineer with 3 PhDs, a PsyD, an EDD, an MD, a postdoc from Harvard, 2 from Cornell, and a background from Johns Hopkins in hematology and oncology, and 20 years in biotech doing cloning and molecular design and all these things, and you took all of that as science and you applied it to nature, and then you took some other smart people and brought them all together, you could do some gangster stuff to completely reorganize how people function. You could get back to the roots of who you are. You now get to see everything that we've been building for the last 9 lifetimes, that's been developed over the last 5 years and introduced into the market, that Christina and I were developing for the last decade, to put in your hands, that you have all the tools ready for you now to become your best self. Because as we've talked about the last couple of years, we're at this tipping point of ascension and extinction. And the beautiful part is you choose. But if you give someone the choice based on great information and data of where they are and who they are, they're almost always going to choose improvement. They're not going to choose death. It's not about deception. It's not about spinning information. It's not about marketing and trying to sell something so we make a buck. It's about allowing people to have the information they need to become their best selves. And for each of you as ambassadors of this brand, it's providing you an opportunity to give people the tools to foster the development of relationships and create an opportunity for others to become their best selves, and then do what we learned in kindergarten, which is show and tell. And if you do that, you can create value. And the beautiful part is you have a mechanism that rewards you for doing just that simple thing. Nothing more, nothing less. Show and tell, create amazing outcomes, get rewarded for it, because if you create outcomes, you'll create income. And if you create value, you're rewarded for it. That's it. So look at some of these markers. Addictive behavior and stimulus control. Well, think about this from a sports performance standpoint. I'm less likely to have addictive behavior, but I'm also intrinsically not motivated to exercise. So I know I'm not going to be one of these guys with low self-esteem that's in the gym constantly trying to get buff because I don't feel good about myself and get addicted to the process and start using things that are not good for me, because genetically that's not who I am. But my power and endurance potential, if I'm training, is actually enhanced. So when I was training and I was eating lots of protein because my metabolism is good and I knew protein was better for me than carbs, and I was a sprinter, I was able to apply these things more effectively to my performance. Because even before I knew all of these things, I had intuition to know how I should eat and how I should function. My muscular fitness, my grip strength is normal. My testosterone levels are less likely. So why is this important for me as a 50-year-old guy? Might I want to make sure that I'm detoxifying my endocrine system to allow my body to work properly, but I probably want to be consuming nutrients that are going to allow the proper endogenous production of free testosterone, because I'm less likely to do it naturally. Would I want to be one that goes and gets injections? No, because I'm going to shut off my body's natural, already less likely ability to produce testosterone. And if I start doing injections, then I'm going to shut that off completely. And if I stop, I'm screwed. Kind of important to know. My VO2 max is normal. My exercise response and heart rate is slightly above average. So that means if I can get my heart rate up, my response to exercise is better. My exercise stroke volume, normal. Now, if I was training athletes or I was an elite athlete, would these things be valuable for me to analyze and put into my performance? If I was a professional athlete and wanting to make sure that I could get an extra year or two out of my career that could be worth millions or tens of millions or $100 million, would these things be valuable? Maybe. Kind of dope. Because just because we give you the tools, every one of us is going to use tools differently. If we set out a bunch of wood and nails and hammers and some screws, some people are going to build a desk. Some people are going to build a bookshelf. Someone's going to build a table. Someone's going to build a house. And someone's going to build an apartment. And someone's going to build an empire. We might provide the tools, but everyone can use them differently. That's the beautiful part of all of us being unique and all being connected, because the difference between a table, a desk, a house, and an empire is all participation. You'll never do it on your own. You'll do it with community. So just imagine your community starting to know themselves best, and then everybody starts making decisions on becoming their best selves, which means they start to shine brighter, because that happens with your aura, your chakras, your doshas, your meridians. We've already proven that 5 years ago. Using Clean Slate, 0 in, that happens in 45 minutes. So when everybody starts to know themselves, humanity lifts up because everybody's becoming their best self. And you can't stop it. Go ahead, Tiger. My body composition response to strength training. We've already seen fuel utilization, like your protein, fat, systemic inflammation, function. Well, they spelled injury risk wrong. That's kind of cool. Or maybe we cut it off. Oh, she cut it off. It wasn't spelled wrong. We cut it off on this when she was doing it. So you can see that with each of these, you have the recommendations for products and how they also apply in this. So if you look at this, if you want to be a health coach, this mechanism is the foundation to you being successful in coaching anyone. And I will argue that if you're one that is working with yourself or you're working with other people to have them improve and you're not doing this, then you should no longer do it. And if you're talking to people that are talking about doing anything as far as health and performance, this should be the first point of conversation for anybody. And if you're not offering this, you're not providing a service to anybody for their health, function, and performance. You're actually doing them a disservice. Because if you don't know you don't know anything. You're guessing, and you're going to hurt people, or you're not going to create the outcomes that are possible if you know yourself. Because the greatest judge of an individual is the individual themselves. You have to give them the information. And when you have the information and they share, if you're a coach or you're a practitioner or you're a caregiver or a provider, if they share their information with you where you can analyze it with them and you're able to use your knowledge, your experience, your gifts in order to tweak this and give them guidance, well, they're going to have the best opportunity to be successful because you have more information. You have more data. And what do we know? Data drives everything. Data in, data out. It's better. But it's the ownership and proper use of data that is so crucial, and the security of your data. Because we're not selling you. We're introducing you to you. Go for it, Tiger. Oh, a little healthy aging aspect. Now, being one who's almost 50 years old, this is kind of important because I don't want to look old. I want to be sexy and young and vibrant at 100, not old and crippled and decaying, because I'm going to be sliding into the furnace like I use this whole thing up. But until that point, we're going to do what my dad taught me, is burn bright like a candle and eventually just get snuffed out and move on. So let's look at ReNEW. Sun sensitivity. Sun is what feeds us. It's what creates vitamin D and connects us back to our source, because your pineal gland needs it, right? Because it's the light center of the brain. So look at all the different genes that pertain to the analysis of your sun sensitivity. And I know I've got my Black Irish genetic roots, my lightly fair skin, that if I spend an extended time in the sun, I'm going to get burnt. Now, I need time in the sun, but I don't need a lot of time in the sun because I'm more sensitive. And I can plan accordingly with that. I do like to get burnt because I like to be a little crispy every once in a while. But I know that prolonged exposure is not going to be ideal for me. So what would I do in that? I might use some Ella Pure products, a little ReNEW when I go out in the sun. And I take a bunch more Restore. And I use some Relive Greens and some more Clean Slate, because the free radical exposure and the damage from the sun can be offset by those other nutrients that you put in to feed yourself, because the orange that you get in Restore is going to help your skin provide more protection from the orange that comes from the sun, as well as the red and all those different frequencies of light that are so crucial for the production of stem cells and V cells and other great things that are within us that God gave us to respond to light. So my skin aging is normal genetically. My skin glycation is below average. So that means I might need to use some tools to feed my skin from the inside and outside. Now, do we have tools that would help feed your skin from the inside out and the outside in? Like a whole line of peptides from Ella Pure and maybe some Clean Slate and give me back my youth on the inside? Kind of amazing. Facial aging? Normal. Do I want to take care of my face? Sometimes. Because you want to look young, right? You don't want to look cosmetically plastic. You don't want to be fake. Because if you do the things to feed the inside, the youthfulness, the collagen that you need, the healthy skin is going to be something that is natural, vibrant, and abundant. But this will give you an idea of what skincare products you should use and how you should go about them. I'm pretty sure that because of our introduction of Ella Pure products, after our introduction of the genetic panel, that we will very soon have an update into the system that when you're in the back office and looking at your report, that the recommendations for skincare products will also be there to go along with what products are recommended for your consumption. Because as these updates and changes and different things are learned or added, updates that are made in the system are always going to be updated active and live within your personal back office where you can look at your report. And the coolest thing is, say we're looking at my skin aging and I'm like, you know what? I need to add some more collagen because my skin's sagging a little bit and I want to increase volume. And it says that Give Me Back My Youth is good. I can click on Give Me Back My Youth. It'll put it in my shopping cart that's in my root account and you can purchase it and that's already connected. Kind of dope. Go ahead, Tiger. Wow. I'm below average in my risk of stretch marks. That's amazing because if I was pregnant, I would not want stretch marks. Or if I gained a lot of weight and I added a lot more muscle, which I'm not one that's going to do, am I prone to having those stretch marks that no one likes to see? Nope, not me. But if you were, you might want to supplement accordingly and add in the nutrients that your body needs, because nutrients, calories, big difference. It's not the food sources, it's the nutrient sources. Add all the good stuff, eat what you want later on. Fat loss response to cardio, we've hit on. Body composition response to strength training, kind of important. We've looked at intrinsic motivation, addictive behavior and stimulus control, and impulse control and taste preference. Now, this is interesting because if you talk to my wife, she might say that my addictive behavior and impulse control would actually be a little bit higher. But genetically, I'm less likely to have addictive behaviors and I'm below average in my impulse control. Well, isn't that interesting? Because my impulse control isn't very good, but I'm not likely to be addicted to things. Now, this is very, very important as we look at a couple other aspects of what you're going to see in panels, so you can understand how different substances can impact behavior and how you can be affected by it. Go, Tiger. Do you know how much sleep you need? Do you know how valuable sleep is? And do you know how to get to sleep? No, we know how to get you to sleep because we take care of your gut with Restore. We feed it with 0N. We decalcify and recrystallize your pineal gland. So the endogenous production of serotonin and dopamine in your gut feeds your pineal gland at night with the serotonin that allows the serotonin convert to melatonin and DMT, which allows you to activate your lymphatic system and get into deep REM sleep. But genetically, you can see how much sleep you need and what's a good night's sleep for you. And, well, I can see that my sugar intake, what's good there. My mental acuity is slightly above average. Well, I have slightly above average mental acuity and I'm popping 0N. Well, hello. My CPU runs a little faster than most. Well, what happens when I add some RAM? It processes faster. Age-related hearing loss is increased. I'm going to use this as an excuse with my wife later on to not pay attention. It's not selective hearing, it's age-related hearing loss. My ApoE genes are normal. My longevity. What if you knew genetically you were predisposed to a decrease in longevity? Would you make decisions to make sure that you were offsetting that epigenetically with things that would prolong your longevity, like cleaning up your system, recrystallizing it, adding in some of the key components from bioavailable silica and neurotransmitters, and the key to mitochondrial longevity and function, which happens to be NAD, which is done by immune defense shield? I would. But if you don't know, you don't know. What if I'm made to run to 120 and people around me are made to run to 55? And we're functioning on the same timeline, like, hey, we need to do this and this and this and this. And I don't know that, they could drop dead in 5 years because of some of the decisions they're making, and genetically they're predisposed to these issues and they might stroke out. And I'm looking at this going, I'm just getting warm. What if you know that you're built for longevity and you can build businesses and build a lifestyle in accordance with that because time is not relative? What if you start understanding that genetically you are created to be something quite unique and you begin to understand who you are? and that you will not play within social norms because society is not built to amplify your God-given gifts. It's been created to control you in a mechanism that is not conducive to your longevity or well-being. It's designed to use you. What if you break out of the matrix? Because you begin to know, like Neo learned in the Matrix, that, oh, I'm a bad MF. I'm that one. The lesson is we're all that one. The key is for you to become your best self. Period. That's the test. That's the journey. Are you willing to invest in the one thing that will pay you the greatest dividends? That one thing happens to be you. Happy, healthy people scientifically have been proven to make more money, to be more successful. So if you become your best self, if you're happier, you're healthier, the byproduct of that is your life is going to be better in all aspects. You're going to have better relationships. You're going to function better. You're going to make more money. Energetically, you begin to see the expression of those. That's amplified in people talking about that you have a magnetic personality. You become more magnetic because energetically, you're expressing more energy, and that energy is what connects you to other people because that's our resonance. You become the beacon of electromagnetic frequencies. And when you remove the negative antennas that have been put in you to be the receptacles for the bad signaling, that would be mercury and aluminum. Just think of every antenna that's been used throughout history. If you remove those and you allow this bioelectrical antenna to start receiving the signals, the frequencies that God's given us, what do you think you're going to become? When you become the resonant being that we are, water blocks negative EMFs. It's a law of physics. You're made of water. That means if you remove the negative toxins from within you that resonate with those bad signals, the water that you are made of naturally will take care of everything else. They will not resonate with you. They can't. It's freaking physics. God made you that way. Just know you. Okay, go. Polysaturated fatty acid tendencies, cholesterol response to dietary fat, insulin response to dietary fat, triglyceride responses to cardio, lactose intolerance, calcium, copper, magnesium, selenium, zinc. Do you know we just put the tools in front of you to be the most dynamic integrative health practitioner or coach on the planet? And all you have to do is share and show and read and review. This is dope. Go, Tiger. Have you heard from your friends and from social media in the internet that CBD is good for you and it is like the greatest anti-inflammatory ever made and it has come from the plant? And I love the plant. But let's look at this. Is it good for you? Do you know? Do you know the source of where it comes from? So here's the thing. I'm an ultra rapid CBD metabolizer. Why is that important? Well, if I'm ultra rapid in my metabolism and I'm talking to somebody that's not, and they're saying you need to take this and I need to take this because of my metabolism and everything's off and I don't even know if I should be doing it. And my systemic inflammation process genetically is normal, but I'm an ultra rapid metabolizer of these things. If I don't know me, how can I make good decisions on this? And my stress tolerance is higher, which means I can manage stress better than most. And my sleep duration needs are better than most. And I know that CBD might be beneficial, but I need to know how I metabolize it. And then I have to start searching for the best sources. Now, granted, the commissioner for hemp and cannabis in the state of Oregon happens to be my best friend, and he's on the USDA board for it. So I might have access to some sources, but if I was going to be able to use it, I might want to know how it affects me. And this goes to the next side of this, alcohol sensitivity. People are talking about alcohol. I don't drink alcohol, by the way, because I'm sensitive to it. I drink tequila. Now, tequila is a botanical and it improves, insulin metabolism and happens to be antimicrobial and it makes amazing margaritas. But I know my sensitivities, and I know, looking at other aspects of the test, that my satiety gene doesn't do things. So if I drink a little tequila and I'm eating the wrong foods, or if I use CBD and I'm metabolizing this, and I begin cross-referencing the things that are important in my life and how I can see, okay, if I do this, I need to do this. And if I'm alcohol sensitive and I have an addiction risk, which I don't, but if I had an addiction risk and I had consumed alcohol, or I was consuming alcohol, or I'd done it in the past, and maybe I had a problem with this behavior in the past, would it not be just exceptional to have a substance that I could use myself, or I could make recommendations to others that would aid in the detoxification of your liver of alcohol and opioids and maybe cannabis, to allow your liver to detoxify these things either actively while you're using them, or to detoxify what's been done in the past? Would that be important if you knew these things, if you've already done those behaviors? Would it not be amazing that that would already be patented? Do you know how long it takes to get a patent done? I mean, you can write it, and about 99% of all patents aren't approved. But would it not be amazing to have a product that, we're just coming out of New Year's, when everybody's celebrating New Year's, or they're having to drink because they're with their family, or they're trying to figure out how to better themselves for this year going forward from what they've done last year? Would it not be amazing to have a patented substance that could do that? God, I would call it clean spirits, because you'd want to clean out the spirits of the alcohol, but that process, the alcohol and the mercury, also holds on to the negative emotions and trauma and the spiritual aspect of the other world that we exist in, and you'd want to clean your spirits. That would be an amazing name for a product that does that. Oh yeah, we got that too. God, you could almost build a business being a consultant for just that subject. You could probably become the top person in the world, going online to do searches to find all of these people that were focused on these things, and say, hey, look, I'm working with this nanobiotechnologist who's done these things. She's a partner of mine, and we have this test to show these components, and here's the patented applications of using these. Here's the products that are based from those patents. Here's the outcomes that we've seen. Can we be friends? Okay, Tiger. Let's do the next one if it'll pop. Oh, wait a minute. We talk CBD, but everybody's talking about the plant and cannabis. Well, is it good for you? Do you know? Let's go. Hit it, Tiger. So I'm a fast metabolizer of THC. My cognitive impairment can remain normal. My impulsive behavior is increased. So if I'm using cannabis, I wouldn't smoke it because it's not made for your lungs, right? But my impulsive behavior would increase, which means my sensation seeking and drug experimentation would increase with the use of cannabis. And I'm a fast metabolizer of this. My impulsive behavior is increased. My pain tolerance stays normal. My stress tolerance is already high. My genetic potential for lifetime cannabis use is increased. If I know these things, I might be cognizant of doing very strategic use of these substances when I wanted to and when I needed them. And I know that some strains of cannabis have a tendency to increase satiety and increase your desire to eat foods, because they make some foods taste better. Now, if I knew my satiety gene is basically off, and these things make foods taste better, and I like to eat, and I used some cannabis, and I was going out to dinner, and I'm like, oh my God, these things taste good. This is amazing. I might have a thought with myself to go, I need to eat this and this because these things are not going to be ideal for me. And I'm going to pay consequences later on. And I might take some clean spirits and I might take some zero in, and that might be outstanding. But if you don't know, you don't know. Now, is it possible that there are states in the United States where cannabis is legal and they've been selling billions and billions and billions of dollars of these substances to people that have no freaking clue how they're personally metabolizing these things? Now, would it not be amazing that with prolonged use of these substances, your tolerance increases because they build up in your liver? Now, would it not be amazing to just clean that out with a substance called clean spirits that would detoxify your liver of those substances? So you can reset your tolerance and you can use less, or maybe not even have a desire to use it at all. Problem solved. Next. Now, would this part be dope if you had a scientist that was part of the Human Genome Project that was working on the microbiome and you had a test that you could do that would give you markers for your own personal microbiome quickly? Oh, we do. Let's dive into this a little bit. I haven't done this part myself, but this is the dopest thing for microbiome that I've seen. You're going to get your overall gut score for how your diversity and function is for your microbiome in your gut. You're going to get your score. 0 to 100. This is not my report, by the way. This is a sample test. So don't poo on me for this report. See, that was kind of funny because you measure your microbiome by a little poo test. Now, here's the thing. If you get both of these simultaneously and you do the GX microbiome test first, do not use that swab in your mouth after you've done it to do the microbiome test. Not going to taste the way it's supposed to. 2 different tests, 2 different swabs, one for your mouth, one for a different area, one for poo, one for your mouth. So even if you have a potty mouth like I do every once in a while, 2 different swabs. Mind you, you get markers for diversity, your alpha diversity. Where are you based on your score? You can see the five primary different types of gut bacteria that are all measured, and you can see what percentage you have of those and how this applies. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Tiger. Would it not be amazing to have a bioscience engineer that was part of this, Human Genome Project that is also going to be able to teach on this subject matter that is at the forefront of research on this, that you had as a resource, and that maybe you could tell people that you're working with, and then you could refer to many different pages and sites to say, here, learn from her here, get this from me. Let me send you a link. Kind of dope, right? Your gut health scores, your heart health, your leaky gut, your respiratory health, your digestive health, your skin health, your metabolic health, because your microbiome, your gut is your second brain. Your microbiome is everything, right? It's not just your gut. Your microbiome is everywhere. So you're going to be able to see your scores for all of these different areas with the influence of your microbiome all in one test. How ideal are you? What's your phenotype? Look at your short chain fatty acid producers, right? I know from my genetics how I process short chain fatty acids and how genetically those are going to impact me and my diet. But now I can look at my microbiome and how they're functioning as well. Start to see how you can put everything together. If you know you actually have knowledge. Imagine looking at this of what we're going through right now and then just being like, I don't need to know any of this. It doesn't pertain to me, when it's probably the most important thing that you're going to have this entire year as it pertains to your health, and you only need to do it once. Now, that's the genetic. The interesting part with your microbiome test is you can take this test along with your genetics, start using Clean Slate, Zero In, Restore, Relive, Immune Defense Shield, Give Me Back My Youth, Sculpt, Crush, however you want to put those together. You have your biodiversity test, and then in a couple months, you can redo it, and you can actually see how everything's changing. You can make the changes in your lifestyle and then measure how they're changing in your microbiome. This would have been so cool to do initially with someone like Patrick, who has leaky gut issues, who has many different gut issues that he's had for many, many years, that starting on restoring a couple things changed how he functions. And we could have been tracking how his gut health has changed. This is something for him that would be insanely valuable and is going to be a lot of fun. And then you guys will have to forgive me for the commentary, but you literally can talk shit with your friends. Kind of cool. Okay, do it, Tiger. Sugar utilization, vitamin utilization. I mean, look at the report, the information that you get in this. This is going to give you insight that, let me make sure that I make this really clear. There's not an integrative health doc out there right now that has this level of documentation and information that they're providing to their patients and are charging tons of money for. You guys are the experts because you have access to the tools. The question is now, how are you going to use this and how are you going to monetize it? Go ahead, Tiger. Amino acid production, vitamin production. This is looking at your microbiome and how you're existing. Your body is taking the nutrients that you're putting in. So look at this. You get your genetic markers for how you're functioning. You're able to get the recommendations for the stuff that you're supposed to be consuming based on your genetics. And now you're going to be able to see how your microbiome is working to actually metabolize and use and produce the components that are seen in your genetic panel that everybody else is talking about, is saying are good for you and you need to take these things. You can actually measure and identify how you're actually processing and using these things. Is that valuable? Insanely. Okay, go ahead. Oh.
These are your genes, Clay.
I'm hetero MTHFR. Is that good? Does that mean I'm straight?
So hetero means you carry the gene. So say you were homozygous. We'd also have to see like what allele you were, like what's the word for it?
Hold on, I want to pause for 1 second. I want to give you some props. And no, don't go on mute. No, don't you mute yourself because this is about you. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Come on, unmute.
Oh, sorry, my AirPod died.
Okay, so hold on. Don't talk yet. Okay. So you just finished your master's degree from the University of Florida, and what were you primarily studying?
Microbiology and biochemistry.
So this is like one of your favorite subjects. So
yes.
this is not like you're somebody that just screwed around. You just finished a master's degree in this subject. So now go.
Okay, so I've been doing a lot of like studying on these. I'd have to go through and see, and I could also send like a main page out to people who will tell you like what, like with your alleles, whether you're C or T or, you know, like your A and G and your C and T and all that type of stuff. But if you're hetero, that means you carry the gene. So if you have kids, since you're hetero, you can carry that down to your kids. So if you're homozygous recessive, your kids would not have that allele. If you're homozygous dominant, your kids will more than likely probably be hetero, just because whenever you carry it down a generation, you'll carry that dominant allele down to your kids. So in this case, Clay, if you have kids, your kid will carry one of those alleles down, and they could be homozygous recessive or homozygous dominant. It just depends on how their genes are carried down through their, environmental, all that type of stuff. But I do have a whole bunch of information on this. So if anybody would like that, I can also send it out. So if you look at your single nucleotide polymorphisms, because that's it's sent out, right, Tiger? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's sent out on your genetic testing that you get from this, and it'll show you your SNPs, your genes, all your alleles, and then whether you're hetero, homo, or no variant. So no variant means that you do not carry it at all. It doesn't affect you whatsoever.
You know the part that I love about this, and my kids will get this, and the younger population will get this. when you look at my methylation genes right here, no homo. Okay, keep going. So talk about, just to hit on real quick on this, because you hit on relationship standpoint. Like if you guys are both, you and Tiger are both young, you're not married, you're still in the pool. How valuable would this kind of be? Like if you were meeting a guy and go, hey, let's take a second so we know you and I know me, and then we can look and see if we can make a super baby.
Yeah, so that's actually a very an interesting question. So say you were, like I said, so you got to look at like which allele is dominant and which one's recessive. So say you have your MTHFR, right? Say you were hetero for that, and say you were dominant, you were hetero dominant for it, right? But well, hetero, you have a dominant and a recessive allele, but your husband, say I get a husband, he has the same thing, more than likely my kid is going to either be full recessive or full on dominant, right? Or later on down the road, it could be opposite. But say you were homozygous recessive and your husband is homozygous dominant, it's going to go back to a hetero. If that makes sense. That makes sense. Clay.
Get me back to my biology studies in school going, I just want to be no homo. So, so this,
but
this
it does have
a
really big effect for sure.
It's almost like we could call it the ROM effect, and almost like there's an app that you could apply to this. Now, would it not be amazing? And this is not done yet. Christina and I joked about this a long time ago, and it's in process. But imagine having an app that you could have a dating app or a piece where you could find people that were genetically attractive to you, and that you could classify people. Maybe you could classify yourself as a 10, or maybe you were a 7, or you're like me, you're a 2. And you could find someone that was a good match for you, not just who you look at, but genetically you go, oh yeah, you know what? We're compatible, and we could find that we're simpatico. Would that not be cool over time? What if you're in the dating pool and you're like, you've got all your data. I mean, ladies, here's what I'm going to tell you. If a woman, and I was in the phase would make this a requirement. Like, look, if we don't have the information that we truly need, I don't want your DNA. You might not be the right fit. Kind of dope, right? No homo.
So ironically that you say that, I think I watched a Netflix show that actually they did like a test and like a personality test or something like that through like your genetics of something. I watched it years ago, and they were already married, but these people were so compatible with the people that they tested for that they actually got divorced and got in a relationship with their compatibility partner that they tested for, which is really crazy. I'll have to look that up for you and show you.
You know what's really interesting? I'm not a marketing guy and I'm not a business person. But if I was to have fun on social media, or maybe if I had a group of people, maybe I would I would create a Facebook group or a Telegram group or different social media groups that pertain to finding your right genetic partner, and bringing all of these people together that were wanting to improve themselves, and they could start sharing their information and their experiences and their findings and say, I'm single, I'm this and this and this, and I got this. And maybe they got someone else in a different part of the world that's like, well, I'm single and I'm this and this and this. And they get connected and they're like, well, your genes say this, my genes say this, you're here. We're sharing with all their friends. We're making all this money. Let's go live in Cyprus together or live in Thailand together. What? And because I'm no homo, Roland and I would not end up together. But I still adore you, my friend. So here's the last part to this lesson. Most lab tests have an expense and you get the report back. But Christina and I, have a very important focus, and not only health and the creation of health, for all of our community and as many pieces of humanity as we can, but also the transference and creation of wealth. Because they are synonymous. You typically won't have one without the other, or you truly won't have true enlightenment and opportunity without both. So when we put DRC GX together, not only did we make it less expensive than everything else in the market, it's also commissionable. So there's 25%, of the sharing rewards that is paid in commission for this test being referred. Now, if I was a business person and a marketing person, I might create campaigns now and I might use mechanisms that have been put in place for people to use to start creating some sites and start doing search engine optimization or Google ads and promotional stuff and using the blogs that are existing and creating websites that are talking about all these things and creating links that can link directly to the DRC GX order page that apply to you, and that you might have your primary account and you might create sub accounts under yourself that you can use for marketing and tracking these things, which means you're making 25% of that $499 per person. So that's 499 times 0.25. That's $124 per test that you refer that you get paid on. Now, maybe you're doing Google ads or you're learning how to do this stuff, and you find that your customer acquisition cost is maybe $10 or even $15 a person to get one. And I'll tell you, the other companies that were doing really bad, really poor, expensive, trashy genetic panels were doing 10,000 of these a month. Maybe you get a fraction of that. Maybe you start doing this and the search engine traffic is there because you might learn how to do this. You might even start using AI to start designing campaigns to build this out for you and give you the metrics of the best things to do, the best search topics, the best ways to write, the best way to take each thing that you just learned in these reports and how to start creating content that is going to allow you to get customers that are looking for these kind of outcomes and this kind of data. And you're going to make that and maybe you only do, it takes you all year and you're able to get 1,000 people to buy into that. So that's 1,000 people times $124. Well, that's $124,000 in income. And the majority of those people are going to take that information and they're going to learn from it. They're going to go, wait a minute, there's all these recommendations. What's this clean slate thing? What's this zero in thing? You know what? I want my brain to work better. I want to sleep better. I want to function better. I got to try that. It's recommended here. You start building all these customers, but then those customers start telling their friends about this test. And what happens? Because what you have to understand in 2025, this is not 2024 anymore. You've got to let go of everything you were afraid of. The one thing I've learned over the last 5 years, I'm going to share with you guys right now. I was talking to my sister about this morning. The biggest issue for people in this community is your own personal limiting beliefs. You guys are all more powerful than you've ever comprehended and imagined because God made you that way. And the biggest inhibition to your massive success and you becoming what he made you to be, actually she, if we're using the proper language, because there's one, and that means it's she, not he, because if anyone can do it, it's he, based on the English language. So God is actually she. And I know my wife too, so she. When you guys let go of the fact that you think you're not capable or not worthy of being rewarded because people have been taught to apply money to success and thinking, oh, only certain people are made to be wealthy. Oh, Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. He ain't even close, by the way. You ever been to Russia? But
let's wrap up. We're already over.
I know. This is my last favorite part. Let go of the fact that you think that you're not capable of making more than you've ever imagined, because the more people you help, the more you're going to receive. The more lives you change, the more you get. The more outcomes you create, the more income you generate, the more rewards you receive. Own it. Let go of all the other bullshit. That's over. Be of service. Be willing to be rewarded for it. Help a lot of people. Help other people. Help people. And even if you just take what you just learned here and you apply this, you can do really, really well with it. And the rest of the platform will take care of a lot of it for you. Be willing to be of service. Be willing to let go of that which you think you're not worthy of, and you'll get more than you've ever imagined because it's already there for you. Stop blocking it. Konnichiwa, my friends.